Hey everybody, welcome to Dutcher Delectables. Tonight we're making Not Your Mom's Meatloaf. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you our standard Dutcher Delectables meatloaf recipe, and then we're going to take it to the next level. Hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. So the ingredients for Not Your Mom's Meatloaf. We got 2 pounds of lean ground meat. This happens to be elk, but any lean ground meat, wild game will work. Even lean beef works just fine. 3/4 of a cup of rolled oats, 1/3 of a cup of minced onions, 2 eggs, a 1/2 tablespoon of pepper and salt. We're gonna go with a tablespoon of minced garlic. We're gonna do just a few dashes of W sauce and a cup of shredded cheese. Okay, start with our lean ground meat. Start with our eggs. I'm doing it this way because, again, once the oats or breadcrumb, whenever you're making a loaf, you gotta add that stuff to it. But you want to mix all your wet ingredients first, and then start adding your dry, because you don't want it to all stick together. It's the best way that I have found to get all your ingredients mixed really well, is to mix all the spices and seasonings and wet ingredients before you add any kind of a binder, which is what the rolled oats are at this point in time. So with the cheese that we add into this, we use a mix of Colby and Jack cheese. It's Colby Jack mix, pre-shredded cheese is how we get it. Any cheese will work. The side note to that is why I put the cheese in there is to keep it moist. As you're baking it, the moisture that you would normally get from the fat is really not in lean meat. So we're adding the cheese to keep it moist while it's cooking. And it does add quite a bit of flavor to it to make it even better. Okay, that's mixed up really good. Let's start adding the oats. Okay, so now you have our Dutcher Delectables meatloaf recipe. If you want to stop there, that's fine. It's awesome. Just take a 4x9 loaf pan, put a good layer of butter on the inside of that, put the loaf in it, and then take a 1/2 cup of ketchup, a 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar, and 2 tablespoons of mustard. Mix together really well. Pour that over the top. Put it in your oven at 350 for 50 minutes, or until your internal temperature is at 175, and it is awesome. We've ate that so many times. So now is the part of the show where we make it awesome. Okay, so we have our loaf. What my plan is I'm going to braid some bacon into the loaf pan, put half of the meatloaf on top of that, and then I'm gonna fill the center of it with a mixture of Monterey Jack and provolone that we have right here. Put the other half on it, make sure it's all good and tight, braid it over the bottom, and then we're gonna cover that in some brown sugar to make it top notch. Let's do that now. Okay, we're gonna start braiding our bacon into the loaf pan, just because it's easier than trying to do it when you're on the loaf. I'm not brand specific when it comes to bacon, but this is my way of doing it. My personal favorite is Right Brand Bacon, and if you're watching this, I really could use a sponsor because I go through a lot of bacon. This is the most time-consuming part, making sure your braid looks now. If you look down in there, now the braid looks like it's supposed to. It's kind of a mess when you're doing it, but once you get it laid in there just right, your braid looks great. Now I'm gonna take half of the meatloaf, fill up a layer in there, and then we'll move on to the cheese. So what I'm doing right now is I am building a dam, or building up the sides of the meatloaf to create a pocket for the cheese to stay in, because we don't want that cheese running out. Because when I put this in the oven or on the grill, doesn't matter what you do, you don't want that cheese running out all over the place. So we're going to build a dam all the way around it, end up on the edges. And it's okay to play with your food. I'm just saying. They say you're not when you're a kid, but you know what? I've had a lot more fun after I started doing it. Okay, press that against the sides all the way around. Down. With some assistance, since my hands are all goopy. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna lay our mixture. Again, this is provolone and Monterey Jack. Across the bottom of it. You can use a whole brick if you would like. We just didn't have any at this point in time. We had a bunch of deli slices, so that's what we did. We just chopped them up and mixed it all together. Okay. Get the rest of our meat here. And I tell you, I was worried when I started this that this was not gonna fit, but it is perfect. And I'm packing it down. Make sure you get around the sides good. So what we'll do is just bring all the bacon into the center. Just so it holds together good. And now, move on to step 2. Now that you have your bacon all wrapped up around that, you can take this right now, if you want, throw it in a preheated 350-degree oven and cook it until your internal temperature is at 175. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna take it another step further. What I'm gonna do is just got a baking sheet, threw some foil on it, because with the bacon and the cheese and everything, it's gonna run a little bit. So what I'm gonna do now is pull it out like that. So now we've got our braid. Now, get some brown sugar. And I'm gonna take some brown sugar and I'm gonna just cover the top of this thing. Not like a ½ inch, but just put it all the way around it. And what that's gonna do while it's baking is this sugar is gonna melt, and it's gonna get in there with the bacon grease and everything else and just absolutely soak that meatloaf in flavor. Also, this is gonna relax a little bit. As this is cooking, it's gonna sink down and you're not gonna have the nice edges anymore. But it's gonna be fantastic. Now, you can take this and put it in your preheated 350-degree oven until you hit your internal temp. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw it out on my pellet grill for 30 minutes, let it smoke, then crank the temp up. Now our meatloaf is out on the grill, smoking, low heat. While that's doing that, we're gonna make our sauce to cover the whole thing when we go out there and crank it up to 350. Okay, I'm gonna start with a half a cup of ketchup, a third of a cup of light brown sugar, and 2 tablespoons of mustard. And we're gonna mix that all together really well until all the chunks are out of it. Okay, back in a minute. Okay, we smoked it for 30 minutes. The bacon is starting, the fat is starting to render down. The sugar is starting to render down. Everything's looking good. So I pulled it off. I cranked it up to 350. Now I'm gonna cover it in our homemade barbecue sauce. At this time, you could throw it in the oven if you wanted to at 350 and get started that way. It's totally up to you. I'm gonna try to keep quite a bit of this on top. It's gonna get more and more fluid as this is baking, so it's going to run down around the sides. Don't push it right up to the edge, but just get a good coating on the top. Like I said, when this starts baking, this is gonna start running because that sugar and the ketchup and the mustard are gonna start to run. So you just want it to run down the edge, kind of like a savory waterfall, I guess would be the best way to put it. All right, we're gonna throw that back on the grill at 350 or in the oven. Okay, so it ended up taking about an hour and 20 minutes to get to that 170-degree mark. Usually it doesn't take that long. I don't know if it's cold outside or what, but we did hit that 170-degree mark. In that time, we did fry up some potatoes and made some brown gravy because tradition states that you cannot have meatloaf without brown gravy. So let's see how it looks. Well, the family loved it. I hope yours does too. If you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, and for this and many other recipes, please join us at DutcherDelectables.com. Have a great evening.